Bruce Wayne may appear to be a wealthy playboy, but beneath this facade, his true identity is that of the Batman, waging an endless war against crime. Join the Caped Crusader in Batman The Audio Adventures, the first scripted audio original featuring Batman and his villainous rogues gallery in a world premiere story of life and death in Gotham City, debuting exclusively on HBO Max. This rollicking adventure, told across 10 episodes, is written and directed by Emmy winner Dennis McNicholas, includes devilishly delightful original music by Doug Bossy, and performances by Rosario Dawson, John Leguizamo, Chris Parnell, Melissa Villaseñor, Seth Meyers, Jason Sudeikis, Brooke Shields, Fred Armisen, and many, many more. Go to hbomax.com/Batman Audio Adventures for more and stream Batman, The Audio Adventures only on HBO Max. Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things Marvel Cinematic Universe and Spider-Verse. I think I've made this joke.
Yeah, I think three.
I do also feel like I texted y'all a great joke last night. It was maybe SNL worthy. And that was while we were talking about the box office of the movie and how it's really good. It's even beyond what the COVID thing is. And I said that the C in MCU is COVID proof. And I thought, that's got to be on Weekend Update. Come on.
I think someone liked the text, so you were on the right track.
I mean, I also think that Shang-Chi didn't do this, but this is good.
That's true.
You think Black Widow did okay?
That's still part of my joke, though. The C is COVID proof.
COVID proof, yeah.
The two highest grossing domestic films, both MCU movies, right? All right, anyways, my name's Emmanuel.
Hey, I'm Andrew.
What's up? It's John.
And before we get too far into it, alert. Spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers.
Alert.
Amber.
I thought the purge, the thing was about to come up like that.
Do you think that when John Hammond went into that mine at the beginning of Jurassic Park and got the mosquito, he got an Amber Alert? Because it's an amber.
He invented it afterwards?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. He gets a different alert that says, hey, we found another mosquito. It's crazy how much blood is in those mosquitoes, huh?
West Nile.
Okay. All right. We're talking about
Tap on the West
Spider-Man No Way Home, the record-breaking crossover. I don't know what to call this. It's a movie, for sure. It's
That's true.
It's Sony and Marvel and Disney's giant, hot, steamy, spider-webby movie that came out. So I hope that now we've been talking for 2 minutes. Hopefully you have left if you haven't seen this movie. But honestly, it feels like most everyone has, right? Like, I don't know.
If you haven't seen this movie, then you probably didn't want to see it.
Yeah, come on.
Well, it's also
It's just
like
'cause it's
maybe
crazy.
they just didn't want to be safe in the surge of a new variant happening.
That's true.
I went to the Matrix yesterday, and it was sold the
And
fuck
he's
out,
sick.
and it was sold the fuck out. It was an IMAX theater.
Well, here's the other thing. We're all boosted. We're vaxxed and boosted. We're V and
True.
B'd. So we are less likely for, I guess, serious illness.
Yeah, I guess.
So,
I
mean, yeah.
Hopefully, this is a knock on wood here.
Even the orange
They're
guy
gonna play
said
this
it.
next week, and we're gonna, even the orange guy,
said it.
the orange buffoon himself,
the big orange bastard.
the number one on the call sheet of Home Alone 2 said it as well. But yeah, so of course, if you are taking it easy, being safe, well, bookmark this podcast and listen to it later.
Yeah.
When it's on Disney Plus, The Matrix is on HBO Max.
Yeah.
We're going to be covering that.
I was on
in
my
another
Apple
podcast.
TV and No Way Home is already there, and I was like, "What?" And you click on it's for pre-ordering.
It's for pre-order,
But I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Damn,
Yeah, they're trying to get
Quick.
that money right now, baby.
Yeah, why do
There's
they-
guaranteed sales,
why
baby?
do they want it now?" But yeah, so we're talking about No Way Home. This is full of spoilers. We have a spoiler-free discussion that released last week, immediately after we watched the film, so you can listen to that to get a little taste. But you're about to get full tonight. It's not about tasting tonight. It's about eating.
Gulping.
Okay, good.
What?
Gulping? What the fuck?
Gulp, 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 gulp. I would make a different noise,
Gulp.
but someone's going to cut that to be something else, I feel. But let's go around the horn. I guess we've all seen it multiple times by now, right? Like, I don't know.
I saw it twice. I saw it once. So we recorded, just for the listener here, we recorded our first thoughts
Directly
literally
after.
right after we saw it. And then I think we all each went to go watch it.
And it was like Thursday on like 3 p.m. Showing
afternoon.
After. Yeah.
So we both saw it. I think all of us saw it the day afterwards too, you guys saw it the day of.
Twice the day of.
Yeah. And
I
then
don't even remember.
You also saw it again, right? Didn't you, Duffin? Like
So it all
the third
comes
time?
together. Yeah, I watched it on the weekend. I don't know.
Third time. Yeah. Damn, all these screenings. You're just like, I don't. Who knows how many times I've seen it?
I might have been dreaming too. The movie.
He was asleep during the Eternals.
Don't tell people that.
Ouch.
What?
Anyway, but yeah, we have seen it multiple times, so I guess we're ready to talk. Spoiler full.
If the movie was if the movie was good, it would have kept me awake after 12 hours of being awake and walking around.
It's true.
If the movie was good,
You're the one who wanted to walk around everywhere.
sorry, Ubers are expensive. Sorry, guys, we're having a domestic fight.
We're gonna
Wait,
have to pause.
wait till-
We're gonna take a little break.
Like, go on. Andrew, what I mean, I feel like part of going to watch it multiple times was to have that communal thing, because obviously we can watch it 100 times once it's on Blu-ray, but there's not going to be 100 people in that room vaxxed and boosted, screaming and hollering. Is that kind of why you wanted to go back and watch it again, Andrew?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I kind of wanted to see how the jokes were gonna land, because the first time everyone's just pure emotion and raw emotion, and I mean, granted, it was the same day, so it's premiere day. I watch it twice because we catch an early showing, and it was. I just wanted, the reason I watched it a second time was I wanted to make sure that I liked it, not just for the nostalgic value.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's, there's a lot of movies that kind of capitalize on that in today's time. Whether, they've had a movie in the past or it's an IP that's just been around for forever that's finally getting a movie.
A lot of really old movies getting sequels this year.
Yeah. And so I wanted to make sure it wasn't just that. But after watching it the second time, I was able to confirm that while it's not the best Spider-Man movie, I think still, it arguably will be a bunch of people's favorites.
Yeah, it's definitely a favorite watch. It's one of the most fun Spider-Man movies that they've ever made. And of course, it's kind of just a groundbreaking thing because of what it
happens,
is. Yeah, because you're like, okay, well, this is something that we haven't seen in a long time. Well, I'll kind of recap my thoughts and we'll go around the horn again. I feel like we've talked about it quite a bit, but it's an incredibly fun movie. It pays off a lot of the nostalgic stuff that you might be expecting. And I absolutely love the fact that it isn't just self-referencing stuff that they know will get a ton of applause, even though that happens quite a bit. And we'll talk about a lot of these one-liners and connections, and even just like similar situations in a weird way. People getting stabbed the same way people get stabbed in other things. But I actually was really surprised how deep this is, and kind of how tragic this is, and how it really brings Peter Parker back to, or Tom Holland's Peter Parker, at least, to that tragic kind of Jekyll and Mr. Hyde struggle between being a superhero and being a regular person. And I mean, gosh, this guy, we got a little taste of it. Speaking of tastes and gulping, we got a little taste of it with Tony Stark and that kind of devastating moment. And you get that more here. This guy's messed up, huh? But I'm surprised at how much I cried and how meaningful those cameos ended up being. And I wouldn't even call them cameos. Those are supporting roles in this movie, and I thought that was really, really special. But we'll dive into it and stuff. But John, just to recap your thoughts on Spider-Man before we gulp.
Watching it the second time was I feel the same way about what Drew said. I kind of I needed to see it again, also mainly for the fact that I didn't know if I got everything the first time, because there was stuff that you're in awe of.
It's a lot to gulp.
Yeah, it's a lot to gulp the first time, so you may miss some stuff. And
some of it's coming out of the sides of your mouth, maybe coming out your nose.
It's just sorry. It was just a lot to take in that first time. So I'm still thinking of your joke. But it's a lot to take in that first time, so you don't really know if you're, also people, when we saw it that first time, it was like a full theater, I was missing lines because people were cheering during shit.
Yes, we know.
Yeah.
I was cheering.
You brought your cane and you were waving it in the air.
Yeah, exactly. This ain't a fucking football game. No, I'm just playing.
Be quiet, god damn it.
But no, I think everything still worked the second time. I think there's again, the movie is incredibly enjoyable. It is very, you kept saying it's a fun movie, and it is a fun movie, even though it's very emotional and very like it's the darkest entry for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But the way even still like thinking about it now, like I'm in awe on how much of that works. Like all the nostalgic factor, the arc, the current arc that Peter has, and and then the way they fit in like really cool moments with the supporting cast like Ned and Zendaya's character MJ. Everything should be a mess, and I guess it does get a little messy towards the end of the movie, but it is a very neat mess. Like it's very fun to watch, and it's like I kind of want to rewatch it again. Like that's how good it is, or that's how enjoyable the experience is. Like you just can't keep away from it, especially towards when it comes to the I guess since this is a spoiler-full episode, when it comes to the cameos, that makes it you just kind of when you're watching it, you don't know if you're having like if you're actually watching what you're watching. It's a like too good to be true type of moment.
They're really meaty parts and meaty scenes and full like moments, and you're like, whoa, damn! And it kind of surprised me that it was around like shared trauma.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like everybody seems to be kind of having a good time. Mcguire aside, and he kind of looks a little dry for the role, but like
you tell me he didn't lotion up.
Yeah, he's not moisturized for this in this movie. It was like it's still a load of fun. Like I think it's the movie. It's cool that it's a little weird actually, not cool, but I guess it is cool that it's getting all this attention and lots of people are going back to the movies to see it. This is really an event movie. Like it's gonna surpass, I don't know, Endgame or something. It's because of like the amount of money it's making. It's a little odd to have that because other movies are being pushed out, literally sometimes pushed out of the same slot that people are watching.
We're talking about new releases by big directors getting 1/100th of Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. I had heard that someone had said that they got their ticket to Nightmare Alley refunded because their theater was like, we need more Spider-Man showings. But I mean, overall, the movie is. I think that's where we're kind of like confused, is because the movie is good, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
And
we're glad people are watching it, I guess.
Yeah, and it's literally the best, probably Marvel movie that they've put out in a while, which is kind of weird because every time Marvel does things, it almost seems like this is better than the last shit. This is better than the last shit. But in this case, I mean, it's like I thought Shang-Chi was like mind blowing, and this is like whoa, and for such a weird and safe character like Spider-Man too. So.
Yeah,
insane
for sure. Andrew, what are your thoughts? You can get a little spoilery if you want to, a little more specific.
I mean, you can listen to it on the first podcast. Yeah, I really dug it both times for sure. I think that, like the way John said, a lot of the fan service sometimes could be a little much in certain things that we watch today. Where Snyder cut a little bit, where it's like, damn, like this is like fan service at its fullest because like the fans literally funded this whole thing.
Oh, I see
like,
what you're saying. Yeah,
there was like a movement and stuff like that, and so I was like, damn, to me that was a bit much and kind of ruined the movie a little bit for me, so to speak. Which is ironic because without that fan service, the movie would have never happened, etc., etc. But
it's a classic chicken and the egg.
Yeah, and so it's really crazy, especially hearing all the rumors, and because people expected surprises, but there were surprises that I think no one, Charlie Cox being in there as Daredevil, and you're like, damn, like they're straight up not going to explain. And if you haven't seen the Hawkeye stuff, I'm not going to say stuff about the finale, but obviously,
it's a bigger deal than
And I mean, Marvel kind of waits a week, and then they kind of just post it on all their social media where Vince D'Onofrio was back as Kingpin. And so you're like, holy shit, like this is like, it's really happening. Like they're really picking and choosing all the best parts of the previous Marvel iterations and kind of slamming them together in like a DC kind of move where DC usually has like a million timelines going on. And then there's one big mega event that combines all the cool parts of every timeline into one. And so in a sense, that's kind of what's happening here, which it's really, really mind blowing to kind of see the live action Spider-Verse happen here. I saw a meme yesterday that was like the guy who said the joke, and it's Into the Spider-Verse, and the guy who said the joke louder, which is No Way Home.
Well, Spider-Verse is kind of paying homage to the comic book, I think, and like the 2D animation and stuff. And this is
the non-Parker characters.
Yeah, this is all about the cinematic universe of Spider-Man.
But at the same time, it's also some of the most comic booky that we've ever seen, like Spider-Man becoming a live action, where like Doctor Strange is in this, and
you get Electro with his fun stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like you get all the villains from all the other movies coming out and stuff like that. So it literally from a bunch of different dimensions. So it's just crazy to kind of find that balance and in between to not be much, and it all works. And granted, I don't think it has pacing issues, or I don't think it dragged, but I just think that it's there's just so much packed into it that by the end of the second viewing, I was kind of exhausted.
Yeah.
Where I was like, holy shit, like man, it's just
It's also a long movie too. Like it's a long movie.
Yeah, and how couldn't you be when you have to explain so much of it, and it's asking a lot of, I think, the audience too, because I think at one point we're like, there's no way there can be a multiverse of things, like it's gonna confuse people, it's gonna put people off and stuff like that. So the fact that Marvel is not only feeling it out as they go, and but doing it successfully is just really, really insane. And you put together the cast, and you're like, holy shit, Marissa Tomei, Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina, Jamie Foxx, Tom Hardy. You get, Andrew Garfield, Toby Mcguire, and you're like, holy shit, this is like an all-star level type of... Thomas Hayden Church,
and we talked about Toby Mcguire and Andrew Garfield having meaty parts, but all of them have very kind of succinct and important roles in this movie.
That's what's so mind blowing, is that like they not only do they pack, that's why it's a long movie, but not only do they pack so much, but every character gets an arc. And it's just crazy, that's why I think it feels like an Avengers movie or something like that, because it just feels like you're it's this big team 'em up movie.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange jokingly says Scooby Doo this shit, and it's always a team effort when it Scooby Doo and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just crazy, and I can go on and on about it, but I'll let you go.
It's groundbreaking, definitely. Like nothing like this has ever been attempted.
The closest I've ever seen it is Doctor Who, when they bring the doctors back, and you're like, holy shit, there's 5 doctors, that, like these actors that have this.
But that's like the same show, like as opposed to this is like a rebooted version of
these
a
are different
thing.
movies. Yeah, all these different iterations, and yeah, it's just crazy to see the amalgam come together. And there's a lot of rumors that were going around, and a lot of them ended up being true. And Andrew Garfield having the redemption and saving MJ, instead of Gwen Stacy. But it just has so much love for the character of Spider-Man, and that was so much of what I disliked about the first 2 Tom Holland movies. If you listen to that Tom Holland episode, I think me and Lex just kind of rung in on like, man, it's too Tony Stark centric, and it's not even Tony Stark, it's Robert Downey Jr., because Robert Downey Jr. doesn't really act; he just is Robert Downey Jr. on film. So it's just
bold.
Yeah, well, and like then that's why, like, sorry, Doolittle didn't work. I guess you got to be yourself in another movie so that for it to work or something. But I guess the Sherlock Holmes movies do okay. But it's just
Chaplin,
and that's why I wanted to move on from there. And it does it with this movie. It even feels like a fresh start, giving him the comic accurate suit and having him everyone forget who he is.
Kind of does with this reversion at the end too.
No connection.
Everyone forgets him. Yeah,
and you're like, man, he's listening to the police scanner. He's in this shitty apartment.
He made his own costume,
swinging in the snow of New York, where we didn't even get that in the first one. Yeah. And now it's
like
literally
blue silk,
and it's just
at the very end.
And it feels crazy to like just be scratching the surface with someone who fought Thanos on Titan.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit! Like, and you're just getting into like what he can do. It's pretty insane.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Tom Holland's character before we dive into, oh my gosh, everyone else who's in this movie. But at this point, he has been a part of the Avengers. But it's actually really interesting.
Great. What is that?
Yeah, it's actually interesting how much it's not that referential to that, especially when that moment, like, we don't know.
And they just throw it away.
And they are, yeah. And I think that's something that Marvel does really, really well.
The Infinity Stones in Loki's desk, where it's like, they're depowered. They don't work here.
And we kind of, we talk about, we just talked about a Revenge sequel, but Afterlife does the almost opposite of this, where everything is like Bible,
It's so on the nose.
And you're like, oh, this is such a very beautiful and special and important thing, and Marvel kind of Deadpools it a lot more.
And you're like, get Harold Ramis off the screen.
No, come on. But I think that's what's really special about this movie. And I mean, there's so much craziness that happens in this film that we like.
I don't think we can cover all of it in this podcast.
Because the Doctor Strange Spider-Man fight would be a finale of a movie. But it's just the first.
It's the end of the first.
The end of the first act. It's just literally one of the inciting incidences. But that was an amazing thing.
That part's going to be in so many math teachers' rooms where it's like,
Oh,
where he
yeah,
says,
use the math,
you know
yeah.
what's better than magic?
Yeah.
Math. And you're like, oh shit, that's gonna be on so many.
It's a
STEM.
lie too.
What?
I'm just playing. Magic is better than math.
Well, because
But it's-
math explains the magic.
Yeah. But that's
But
also
magic
that's-
can mean 2 + 2 = 5, like Orwell said.
I would say
I'm
that's
just
the
like-
most MCU part of the movie. The fact that, of course, Doctor Strange is creating the spell
Yeah,
and they fight. And then, of course, at the end, he kind of fixes everything in an interesting way. But beyond that, it really is even an interesting choice to have no villain in this movie. There are villains in this movie, but in reality, all of the Spider-Man are just trying to fix them and their chemical imbalance and their whatever it is, or their, the thing that makes them supernatural, makes them dangerous. And even then, it's kind of an interesting movie because there's not actually a single person who's trying to do the big bad. He's just trying to solve some inherent problem in these people. But
That is really different as opposed to like a just.
Yeah.
I mean, it still lends itself to being like that device is obviously a way to get all these villains together and fight in almost like a Sinister Six type of fashion.
yeah. And there's obviously that helps you introduce MacGuffins, which are all
Yeah.
the antidotes that you have like 6 of them, 5 of them now or
The
something.
Doctor Strange box.
And
Yeah.
the magic box.
You got the box. What's in the box?
Yeah.
Um,
A spell.
A spell.
Yeah, this movie is like, there's just so much to chew on. I guess we should go down the cast list before we move on to anything else.
We got Martin Starr returning. No, I'm just kidding. You want
Oh,
to?
yeah, you could
I
put
mean, you
Martin
get
Starr.
cameos
Yeah.
of all.
You're
the,
starting with Martin Starr.
Well, it's just because, like, man, and that's because a lot of that cast is what made the first 2 movies special.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and they're kind of pushed back.
Yeah, and because you have these other 6 villains and you have fucking 3 Spider-Men and shit like that. But and that's why I wanted to give them a shout out. Where it's like Hannibal Buress is there. And
Yeah.
you get what's
Flash.
DJ
JB
Flash.
Smoove is in there.
Thompson.
Yeah, and
Betty Brant is in there in the background?
Brant is in there, too.
She's the reporter.
You're right, because the first 2, and this is kind of maybe one of the things with all of the other, well, really, just Andrew Garfield and Toby Mcguire is they graduate from high school. That period of their life is over quickly.
Immediately, yeah.
And in the first 2 films, he was in the Avengers, but they're all pretty much set in that
During his high school years.
In that high school years, there's a lot of angst. He's still going to class and on field trips.
He has to get a GED at the end of this movie.
At the end of the movie, he has to get a GED. But I think this is the graduation in terms of his education, but also in terms of him becoming kind of the Peter Parker that we've kind of known or seen.
That's a little bit more familiar than and I guess the high school one is very familiar to people who grew up with the original Spider-Man comics and the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right.
That struggle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because that's where
life.
I think that's like central to the Spider-Man character. I think I had said that when we recorded the No Pod Home episode. Is that Spider-Man to me was kind of a weird hero because at the time I didn't really like being a teen.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of struggling in there. So
Don't want to be a kid or an adult, no in between.
just jump into like, wait, where are we going with this?
I don't know. I'm worried.
You didn't like being a teen.
But anyway,
I love being a tween.
But like it's and then seeing that like Spider-Man, the character itself, lends to like those type of struggles that makes that character very human is pretty cool. You kind of felt that a little bit in the previous 2 movies, but really you really feel that this first one I think in particular with the Homecoming.
Yeah.
The Michael Keaton scene is just so great.
So good.
But in this one you really do get it it's just like
He's kind of steps into the complicated role of being a hero, especially one that has an identity. Because we talked about it, I think earlier, maybe in the Tom Holland episode. So many of the MCU characters have no identity problems. Like Hawkeye is getting recognized on the street.
Yeah.
NBD. And this movie is all
Iron Man
about...
has a mask, but people know it's him.
Yeah, it's Tony Stark.
Yeah.
But this movie is all about him trying to keep these parts of his life separate, which is honestly a pretty Peter Parker thing.
Yeah.
But like the first film, he wants to be an Avenger, and then he has to deal with trying to get that mantle from Tony Stark, and then this one, it's kind of like he makes the choice at the end of the movie. He's forced to, but he makes the choice to kind of make a huge sacrifice and become a superhero. So I think it's cool for the evolution of Tom Holland, and it's really unique to him. I feel, apart from the other origin stories that we've seen, it's a very unique way of getting around it. It may have taken a little longer, and it might have been a little.
It almost feels like a reboot, right? A little bit
soft.
Well, it does kind of feel like
It's not
a soft.
hard.
Well, because he's
It's getting there.
you literally don't have anybody who knows who Peter Parker is anymore in this universe. They know who Spider-Man is.
So he's not going to college, right? Because they're gonna be like, "Hey, there's no public record of you being here."
Yeah,
but
no
they-
money.
Your schools.
The Avengers won't even know who he is. It's kind
The
of
Avengers will know who Spider-Man is, but they won't know who Peter Parker is.
Yeah.
That's
The
right.
cool
Yeah,
thing.
that's true.
Yeah,
But
so,
I think it also, you're right. Like he can do the thing where he's taking pictures of Spider-Man and
Yeah, he can do that
selling
now,
them.
yeah.
It's. But I feel like it's gonna be so because he's lived a damn whole life.
yeah,
And nobody knows. And I just feel really weird about all of the even if he comes into slight contact with Avengers or with MJ and Ned, which we know is going to happen. There's three more movies.
It happens with Happy Hogan too.
With Happy Hope, but it's like going to be devastating.
It is, yeah.
Kind of as an audience member and as him to be like, I've fucking saved the,
Well,
like
and
I've done so much for you.
But I think him knowing the Avengers, like that prevents him from being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Because then there's always that question where it's like, hey, where the fuck were the Avengers during this movie?
Yeah.
And so it's easier here.
I've realized because Hawkeye is happening almost concurrently with this, almost in the same spot, really, because he flies through Rockefeller Center right before, spoiler alert, Hawkeye brings the tree down. But I think I've realized that the thing that they've decided to do to make it not an Avengers level event is just make them temporally short. This whole movie takes place in 12 hours.
right, yeah.
And No Way Home. And Hawkeye takes place in 2 days. So I think that's how they're keeping things, especially in New York, kind of separate, is there's just not enough time to call the Avengers. Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
Because you're right. Like, if there is the giant, if at the Statue of Liberty there's 7 villains fighting,
That's an Avengers level
they're going to
problem.
call someone. Yeah. But if it's all happening in an amount of time and then everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, okay.
Do you think they're just
fine.
watching the news and like, oh shit, there's 3 spots? No, they got this.
It's
they're
kind of
just like
I just think it's it's their problem because they want it to be a shared universe for Marvel to kind of be like, okay, like how do we keep the lines from crossing? But so far it seems like all they're doing is making things happen in like tiny spurts of time. And we'll see how far that goes because Fantastic Four is set in New York. Like there's a lot of things that are about to come to New York, and maybe everything will be 24 style. Real, it's taking place in real time.
yeah, that happened yesterday, and then like
beep,
what happens?
Beep. Yeah, there's just stuff
Wasn't
happening.
that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier also like?
It's a very it maybe 4 days. Like these don't take long. It's kind of weird. Same
Yeah.
with WandaVision. Each of those is 1 day. Like
Yeah,
each of
they're
those
all like
episodes-
very various times after the blip, I guess in this
Yeah.
case, because this is like 2 weeks after Far From
I don't know
Home.
Yeah, and then at the same time you watch like Civil War, and that could be taking place months apart.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, well, when did the Sokovia Accords happen, and when are that's like a 3-month, 4-month long movie or something like that. But anyways, it's working for now, so not many complaints from us. Well, let's talk about Ned and MJ before we dive into some of the other Spider-Men that are in this movie. What do you think about Ned, MJ, some of the people that we know from the Tom Holland universe? And I feel like in a role that they do a fantastic job in, considering they've had 2 movies to also kind of be, and I think this is actually one of the first times they're all together. Because MJ, for a long time, Zendaya's character is kind of on the outskirts. He reveals his identity at the end of Far From Home to her, even though she kind of knows. But she's full on a member of the team now.
Yeah, I think that happened at the end of Far From Home. I like them having them kind of like as his like backup, because that's what
They
they
keep
are
him
in this one.
grounded, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool. I actually don't maybe prefer Ned in his older movie roles. Like I think in Far From Home and in Homecoming, I think he might have been stronger because I think he shares more of the
Yeah.
you know-
He's kind of third wheeling right now.
yeah, and he's basically third wheeling in there. I do really like MJ's character in this a lot, though. Like I do like the way he is very believable. I think it's just because of the chemistry of Holland and Zendaya,
Yeah.
which is they're obviously dating in real life,
Dating IRL.
but
Maybe.
but they're
Maybe they just FWB, baby.
it's just their
What?
relationship is
Front
like
wheel back? I don't know what that means.
their relationship is like the heart of the movie. Like it's basically he's doing everything. He ends up doing this because his friends don't get into college.
Yeah.
And so he asks for strangers' help, and then all of a sudden chaos.
It's also strange help.
That is also strange help. But then so I think like the relationship between Zendaya and Holland really works in this case. I think they may even work a little bit it works better than any other Spider-Man relationship we've seen in the past.
Especially at the end. That scene is kind of devastating, and it really just kind of makes that thing poignant of him not being able to help.
I thought she was gonna kiss Ned, and I was about to freak
I
out.
thought that too, and I thought
I was getting so scared.
in my head I was like, "What?"
Oh, the scene in the coffee. I was like, no fucking way. Are we
it kind of reminded me of the Toby Mcguire, James Franco. Oh, cancel James Franco and Chris, like the
MJ
that moment,
love
and then
triangle.
and then I don't know if you remember. Maybe it's the third one where Toby Mcguire is like following MJ kind of from a distance. You remember that one?
Protecting her.
I know,
Which
but
one's
like,
that one?
is that the third one? I think it's
Yeah,
the third one. But like, I got that kind of vibe, that kind of like, I love you, but I can't be with you. But this is like another level because she doesn't even remember you, and that is kind of sad. But yeah, that's I feel like whenever we get that cathartic moment where maybe she remembers at some point, or he like tries to tell her, it's just gonna be either it's gonna feel really good or really sad.
What if he meets like a Gwen and it like flashes him back to like what Andrew Garfield said
Felicia
on how
Hardy,
exactly, where it's like maybe he couldn't save her, so now he wants to like protect this one with everything he's got. And there's some really cool places you can go through it with it. But yeah, I too I was a really big fan of Zendaya in this one too, on how, and that's what Spider-Man's always been. It's the Superman thing where like Lois Lane is the center of his world.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. Spider-Man's always been the romantic thing, and the romantic. So it's just really cool to kind of see that center here, where it's like he's freaking out and stuff like that, and she's always kind of his balance and his like peace, and she's the one who calms him down. And, she's always up for all this superhero stuff when even he isn't sometimes, and it's just really cool on how ultimately like good she keeps him, basically.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of want to see where he goes from here, because he's not gonna have that balance anymore. And
he doesn't have a support system. It's crazy to think about.
And man, thank God, what's her name? Fucking Aunt May is dead, because could you imagine if she had forgotten him?
Yeah.
Like that would have been crazy sad.
Yeah.
And he was already done with high school. Aunt May's dead, and so the only two people who really forgot him were his friends, and then. They're gone too. They forgot and the Avengers, but I mean he was only really close to Doctor Strange and Tony Stark, who were the people that actually ended up going to Titan with him when they were going to ambush Thanos. So it makes sense that now that Tony Stark has passed on, that Doctor Strange would kind of take that mentor mantle up with Spidey.
I think that I love the fact that Ned and Zendaya are kind of the catalyst for finding, and Ned too. I mean, Ned can do magic, but
Ned flies down with the cape.
Ned flies down with the cape. He can do magic, and Doctor Strange is like, interesting. What's going on here? And people are like thinking, and there's also that super meta moment where they talk about James, what happens with the friendship with Toby Mcguire and
They
James
all
Franco.
turn into goblins.
But I think that's so funny that
Ned is the hobgoblin in the comics, and so you're like, man, he can still go that way.
I think what people are thinking. But I will say that I do like the fact that they are the catalyst for bringing the other Spider-Man on board, because they're the support system for Tom Holland, and it makes sense that not only are they the people that find the other Peter Parkers, but they bring them into Tom Holland's world and help him through like a really insanely tough moment, which is the loss of Aunt May. Let's talk about Aunt May a little bit. Kind of, I mean, I didn't see this coming at all when I was watching the movie the first time. What did you think about the choice to have her kind of instill in him and that kind of sense of morality? Because of course she's doing charity the whole time. She's the one that actually tells him to try to save the villains.
Right. Yeah.
Even though one of them kills her. But what do you think about that choice of making her kind of, the Uncle Ben of this story?
I think Tom Holland's character needed it.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't have a problem with it at all, and I think like it's a pretty great moment. I think Marissa Tomei
super effective. Yeah,
it's super effective. Marissa Tomei acts her ass off on the scene,
and they made the choice to have her stand up and walk around.
Yeah, and that's the devastating part. You kind of think that she's okay.
That's rare. She's not. I don't think I've seen that at all.
It just makes it like more vicious too, and you're like, holy shit.
Because it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's like play.
I mean, the way the Goblin gets her is the way he was God also, and you're like, holy shit, this is fucking like meta as fuck.
And so that part is great and everything. I don't know. I guess it's great. I was gonna say a but. There was a but coming, but it's just only because of the fact that I thought maybe he would have done this. I thought that's why he turned into Spider-Man in the first place. Because in Civil War, he hints that like bad things happen when you don't do, when you don't step up.
You don't really know what happened to Ben either. Like,
Yeah, and what is it?
For all you know,
husband, or-
he probably didn't even know who Ben was.
Maybe there wasn't even a Ben,
or maybe
honestly.
there wasn't a Ben.
Yeah.
There was a what if reference to Uncle Ben, and I don't know. I guess maybe that's just like the
a different.
different Spider-Man.
Thing, yeah.
Because there's zombies in that one.
Hey, that's a what if, baby.
But,
Hey, what if, John?
Ponder the question.
But I think that's the only thing that reservation that I had with that is just like, wait, did that just happen again?
Yeah,
'Cause
to him.
he did.
And the
Like I
Tony
said-
Stark thing, yeah.
In this, it was just for continuity's sake, but I think it's obviously way more effective now than it was
Yeah.
before. Even if Uncle Ben did die back in the day,
Yeah.
because he does hint, I think, in Homecoming that like everything that Aunt May's been through, and I think that's assuming
Yeah, I
that
see what
like
you're saying.
so like it almost seems like he had two events that turned him into Spider-Man. One
Yeah.
that turned him into that Spider-Man, and then two that turned him into the Spider-Man post.
Well, you bring it up,
post No
but
Way Home.
he also has a lot of these moments in the MCU.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Tony Stark, and then he's the one that disappears in Tony Stark's arms in like a weird mirror, moment. But those are some of the most effective and most memorable kind of dramatic scenes in all of the MCU. It's the one that people talk about is I don't feel so good, and it's all Tom Holland. It's kind of crazy to think that he's the guy that you do not want to be around if
I think-
someone's dying.
I think I made this joke online, and I think I made it on maybe on the spoiler-free app. Is that like this? It feels like it's the third time he's come of age.
This poor guy.
Like, it's like he keeps
Ugh.
coming
He
of
keeps
age
coming of age.
every movie he's in. It's like
He
there's
just keeps losing.
yeah, and then so you're like, oh my god, now he's like maybe
Yeah.
he's an adult now. Oh wait, now he's an actual
Yeah, at
adult.
some point he's gonna be desensitized
Yeah.
to this, and he's like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, he's gonna be cold. He's gonna be like a Batman or
Yeah.
something.
like the
eventually.
Garfield character, apparently, like
Yeah.
his Spider-Man.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna get into spoilers on the PS4 video game, so if you haven't played it, then skip 2-3 minutes. But I think that's why it wasn't as big a shock to me with Aunt May kind of passing on in this movie, because that happens at the end of the first video game of the PS4 Spider-Man game. And it's as effective there as it is here, where and it's a kind of gender bend on the moment, and she even gives him the with great power comes great responsibility, it's just really really crazy on. And I had read some of the leaks on Reddit and stuff like that, saying that he was going to experience big loss, from the trailers, it kind of made it seem like it was going to be Happy Hogan, which would kind of make sense in a way because,
John Favreau's making the Mandalorian.
Yeah, exactly. He's just such a busy guy that you're
Yeah.
like, man, what else is he going to be in next? But, I kind of had a feeling that it was going to be the Aunt May thing. I think it was really, really cool and effective. And that fight right before it all happens. It's just brutal where you're like, holy crap, like, no wonder.
Mm-hmm.
You get Green Goblin spine busting Spider-Man through levels of this.
And even before that, his spider sense is tingling, and you, as an honest, you're just like, "What is it? What's happening? Is there another villain?" But no, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just crazy that it's always got to be the original type of the one who kicked it off, and even the lizard was like, "Yeah, I'll do this. I guess I'm gonna stay in the truck, but I don't want to change. But whatever. If I don't want to die."
You should have put the lab coat on the lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how more lizardy he looked. Like he had a little bit more of a snout rather than the smooth little
He looked good.
Voldemort face that he had in the Spider-Man.
Lizard looks hot as hell. I would.
But and
Bestiality.
Yeah, and so it was really really just an awesome moment of like the Goblin kind of setting the thought process off, because Norman is full for it as well. Obviously he wants to get out and he wants the Goblin out too from this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, but to see the Goblin kind of still have it is really really crazy.
In terms of performance-wise?
Because people like the fights of like the second Spider-Man, and everyone's always saying on how great it is, but I think this kind of gives the Goblin a little bit more of an edge on the Doc Ock thing in the grand scheme of it all. Because Doc Ock, obviously and that's another thing, a spoiler on the PS4 thing, where Doc Ock is your ally and he's your mentor before you end up creating him by accident.
He's an empathetic. The only reason he's evil is because of the tentacles. Like,
Right,
he's a really nice guy.
because it's not him, and the tentacles are the ones that are doing it. And I don't know why the tentacles are upset about killing this human's wife.
I don't know.
And you're like, then these tentacles are like, that was my wife. But
My wife.
so it kind of brings him down a notch and turns the Goblin up, giving the Goblin the comic accurate costume too,
Yeah.
taking off the crazy helmet.
He destroys the helmet right away. Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe also doing most of his stunts for real, which I thought was really, really cool. But yeah, it was really, really awesome to see that.
Like, I mean, we're talking about some of the villains now. Let's talk about that before the Spider-Man. Just like, but Willem Dafoe is back. Alfred Molina is back.
Jamie Foxx.
Is. We're not good, but there's a lot of villains in this
Foxx
movie.
Is back. Well, we might as well. Like, he's back as Electro. Thomas Hayden Church is back as the voice of Sandman.
And also in repurposed footage from Spider-Man 3.
I don't know how to say his name. The
I
lizard.
think he's back as the Lizard's
Oh,
voice.
the Lizard's hot as hell. I would.
He even said that again. Peter. And you're like, oh shit, damn, he says it exactly like it.
And they all have moments with their respective Spider-Men too, which is really.
Yeah.
I feel like we're missing one. Are we missing one?
Well, I think the sixth villain in here that we see is
Mysterio
probably
at the
Mysterio at the
because
beginning.
he's the one who kicks it all off.
Technically of Sinister Six.
But yes, you do get another villain that doesn't make sense because he doesn't know the identity of Spider-Man, and it's Venom at the end. Where you're like, why did he get brought over?
No, that's the one, the most important one, Venom. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's the other box office bank. Every villain that's in this, every villain is lemons. No, I'm just playing from it.
Well, and one of these other
SpongeBob.
villains didn't know who Peter Parker was.
It was Electro. Electro never knew who Peter Parker was in his
but I
universe.
guess he had the access to the internet, I suppose, and electricity.
in it.
Why not?
Yeah.
I guess that's a plot hole. But everybody who's back is like, it's what you said earlier at the beginning of the podcast was interesting, is that everyone gets an arc. Like, we thought these were going to be just cameos,
and
just
they
fights.
straight up explain why they look different, why they're here, the moment that they left, the moment why
Jamie
and
Foxx
what they're after.
Jamie Foxx is acting a little weird. He's not really.
To be honest,
like
in his first life, why wouldn't you be different in your second life? Where it's like, hey, I can be this
his
other person.
His energy's a different color. He's not blue.
I'm not a nerd here.
He's jacked.
He's not Mystique.
And they even explain the color change where it's like he's blue in his universe because the electricity is different in this universe than it is here.
And he gets Tony Stark's
by a little bit of a molecule.
What is that?
Arc
thing
reactor.
called? Arc reactor,
yeah.
which is kind of like the craziest thing for him to get. Yeah, if you think about it.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
And Sandman goes to a place that has multiple dump trucks filled with sand.
Just ass. All this ass. All these dump truck ass.
Lizard be lizard.
He goes to the sewer.
Lizard gives it to Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
Remember, Doctor Strange is all fucked up.
Yeah,
I
honestly,
want to see a Disney Plus short.
Yeah.
On like the 10 minutes of like Doctor Strange trying to get the lizard in the cage.
Well, the lizard is the scariest villain.
Like
just
an
in
animal.
pure, you're scared to death. They run at Ned.
He's trying to turn the other villains into lizards as well.
and that's kind of funny too. But but really, Doc Ock and
Willem
Dafoe. Those are the kind of the
OGs.
the OGs, the ones that have the kind of the outsized roles of all of the villains. I guess you would say they're even kind of the leaders because in a way, Doc Ock understands the assignment, gets fixed, and is on the side of Peter Parker. And then
when those two actors are actually in the room as well, like Sandman, Lizard, like
not
all these
there.
CGI. Yeah, exactly.
Jimmy
They're
Fox,
just
there
recording-
sometimes I feel because he gets his own shots a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But is he there?
Yeah. So a lot of them aren't even there. They're splicing footage from their old movies at the end.
And I will say this: they've also talked about the fact that they started production on this movie before all of those actors were signed. Even they were just crossing their fingers, saying, "You're in this movie because we wrote it in there."
You want to be in a record-setting movie?
No.
This shit's gonna blow people's minds. Second time Spider-Verse.
Again, I can't get over the fact that the crux of this movie relies on the fact that Peter Parker is fixing them. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty
to
cool.
think about, and it's really effective.
Not to mention, it makes his Peter Parker better than the other two.
Yeah, because even in the moment when they're talking, they've never tried to fix their villains. They, especially Andrew Garfield's,
We're gonna fight.
Stops pulling punches and I guess is just murdering a bunch of people on the street, which I think is like pretty
Cray,
Dark
cray.
Knight of him, right?
Yeah.
Dark Spider, Tarantula.
Spider-Man Noir.
He's a Punisher.
Yeah, Black Widow. Well, let's talk about these, and of course, we're talking about more of these villains and these set pieces and stuff soon. But let's talk about
the Spider-Man.
The Spider-Man. I mean, that moment. What is in the MCU? If you see a portal, you better get ready to clap.
You better get fucking ready to be wet.
It's either gonna be on your left, or it's gonna be
Right in front of you.
On your right.
Toby Mcguire in a jacket.
That's Peter. That's a comic accurate Peter Parker look from the comic.
I love that Ned says like, "Oh, it's just some random guy."
It's so funny, and I think it's so good, and I think it is up there with the on your left moment. The fact that, you get the sense of a different Spider-Man, even from Andrew Garfield, that just like
I kind of wish
winking.
I kind of wish that they had been introduced in separate scenes, like they got tagged along, rather than it just being like, let's just dive in and right back to back.
It's kind of crazy when we talk about balance because it's the most devastating moment of the movie, Aunt May dying, and then there's kind of a small reprieve with them them waiting to see Peter, and then you do kind of like, okay, they're just gonna call Peter Parker's, and then it's like, let's go down this Rolodex, baby.
And it's just crazy because Garfield, his badass comic accurate suit comes in, and you're like, holy shit, like this is crazy. And so when you hear them like, I guess we should just keep doing this, and you can hear the crowd like, oh my god, like this is about to happen.
They're gonna call Deadpool too.
Yeah, and why not? I guess, but. Yeah, it was I wish it was they had appeared in separate scenes, but the chemistry between both of them is just really, really awesome.
Yeah, you do get the sense that it's kind of a brotherhood of actors who
mutants
who can you. Side note: I know Andrew really wanted them to be like. I guess we'll see where Venom is. Can you imagine if they did that in this movie? And then Tom Hardy's in it for anyways. But I will say that there is kind of this meta moment towards even the end of this when Tom Holland has to say goodbye to the other two, where it almost feels like it's not written and it seems like they're all just saying goodbye to each other as actors who got the mantle to be Spider-Man. Right. And it kind of reminds you of the fact that if some of the movies didn't work, it really kind of isn't even the fault of Andrew Garfield, Tobey Mcguire, or Tom Holland. They played their role, and that's why I think even when Tobey Mcguire says it's what we do, in my head I was like, yeah, I guess it is kind of just you get cast.
If you think about it,
you got this role, you do it, and whether or not studios or whoever messed it up, it's kind of just you're doing your thing, and you're a
fan reaction. It's just like that's you. Yeah,
it's kind of what you do what you need.
Except for George Clooney though, he doesn't want to be Batman.
It's so cool because I think the last two Spider-Man franchises ended on sour notes, where Spider-Man 3 was just a little bit too much studio involvement. They didn't let Sam Raimi kind of take the reins and stuff like that because they got too big for him and stuff. Understandable.
Special thanks to Avi Arad.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
That one.
No, they didn't put that shit at the end of Spider-Man 3.
Oh my god.
But and they should have.
Yeah.
Oh no, but yeah, and it's just it was unfortunate. And then when they rebooted into the Amazing Spider-Man, a really, really cool take from Mark Webb with the Lizard, and really cool cast like Dennis Leary there, and Sally Field, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you kind of botched it with the second one.
Yeah.
And to the point where I thought, I don't know why you would have used Electro in this one, because you're like, holy shit, like that villain was just whack as fuck.
Even though, in context, it's I guess not a success, even though it made $800 million. And in any other world, you're like, well, that was a.
Well, because you put it on and you're like, damn, this is like Batman and Robin level, type of campiness and hokiness of him stumbling and dropping the papers, and you get this little funny music playing in the background, and you're like, oh, this is weird.
And you thought someone with the last name Webb would make a banger Spider. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and so it was really, really cool to get them in here, and they didn't need to be redeemed because I've been an Andrew Garfield stan for forever, and I think it's funny that people are like, hey, I want Amazing Spider-Man 3. I was like, well, then you should have went to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bohemia.
Yeah. Bo.
I said ba. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
You're like Hubba Bubba Bubblegum and shit.
Hubba Bubba.
Yeah, you're like Andrew Neiman from Whiplash, but it's really the chemistry between all three of them is amazing, and the jokes, the web shooters,
Spider-Man meme,
the cracking of the back, the I love you guys, Avengers, what is that?
The referencing the insane storylines that they've gone through.
What other cool villains have you fought? And he's like, I fought. They reference Venom and Topher Grace in the past, and Paul Giamatti's Rhino. And
Tobey Mcguire talks about losing his mojo and not being able to shoot webs, which happens.
The web block.
The web block.
Yeah.
So they're cracking each other's back.
Backed up.
That stuff is really good, and I feel like it works because Marvel and Sony ultimately is not so referential to their stuff that they won't make fun of it. Does that make sense? Because that's kind of like you can see where maybe some producers of past Spider-Man stuff, no names included, would not allow that kind of insult. Does that make sense? They'd be like, no, those were amazing moments. We're not making fun of them. Those were our choices, and we stick by, but this is not.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
Oh my, all of that was so good. The power of the sun
Yeah, and then
in his hands.
He finishes his line from him. He's like, in the palm of your hand.
And you know what? He might have taken it with him. Like, I don't think we see him give it back, right? Like, he may take that back.
I've been trying to be better. That line where like that's what they say to each other in the second one, and
I also love that Jimmy Fox has that moment where he finally sees who Andrew Garfield is, and he's like, I just wish you were black because you were from Queens.
Yeah, he's like, you're always helping poor people. And you're like, this is
honestly, I'm a little disappointed. I thought that's all good.
And there's a reference to Miles there too. Like,
exactly,
really
which he exists. Hey, Donald Glover's the Prowler,
he's
baby.
in Tom Holland's universe, so yeah it's totally possible. And we're kind of gushing around all this, but we haven't even like scratched the surface of all of the Spider-Man, and it's and the emotional core of this is them helping him with their past experiences get to where he needs to be as a Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah.
And we get a little hint of this in Into the Spider-Verse, honestly, because all of those
have lost,
and
then they even like to the point where it's like. It's
that movie's a little in retrospect a little darker because they're kind of waiting for him to lose something.
And there's way more Spider-Man, and they all have
it's crazy to see like the epiphany or like the catharsis that the two older Spider-Man are kind of because obviously they want to console him and stuff, but then they realize like holy shit, he doesn't have an Uncle Ben, so like he's not even really Spider-Man until he has this loss that's going to make him stronger in the end. So it was really really cool to see all that, and again just kind of plays in to the redeeming qualities of some of the botched ending to their failed.
And it really is what makes their roles feel like huge supporting important roles. Like these are not gratuitous cameos.
They
you need
Uncle Ben because he's got two Uncle Bens right here.
And they're kind of going. They're talking through like feelings and dark stuff. And it's not like them winking and like swinging in and saving Tom Holland at the end and then dipping out.
It's completing their arcs, like
it's also
20 years,
their own arcs.
We talked about the Gwen Stacy stuff, and then also it sounds like Tobey Mcguire's Peter Parker has found balance in his life in a really interesting and maybe hopeful way, especially now that we know that Andrew Garfield has been killing people left and right, apparently, or something like that. Bohemia. And I think that Tom Holland's going to end up somewhere in the middle of the two of them, or maybe. Kind of shaping his own destiny because he got a reset, which is kind of something they didn't get,
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of it. I mean, there's so much you can do with the ending of this movie. It's very exciting because you can just do traditional Spider-Man stories.
I also think that you're not gonna be able to top some of this, so that's why I think Watts was like saying like, hey, if we go through like with this, they're gonna be smaller stories, more personal,
and they're different director. I think in this case too.
Oh, he's on to Fantastic.
Fantastic Four, baby.
He's gonna do a pretty good job. Well, let's do this. We're gonna take a little break. We're obviously gonna talk more Spider-Man. We're gonna play a fun trivia game, and I guess y'all will text me. So I was going to do a fun one, but I realized every single one of these mainline MCU movies, we do a trivia game on the movie we just watched, and that is the same case here. I've got some trivia based on the No Way Home film, and y'all will text me your answers, and I will keep track of the score. Now, this is a new movie, so we're pretty limited on behind the scenes stuff because it just came out, but there's still a lot in here that is a little bit surprising. I will go through the list and y'all text me the answer, and we'll keep up the points here. No Way Home.
Damn, you said we were gonna take a break and we're not gonna take a break. Okay, that's
sorry, we're taking a break from our talk to talk more.
I see.
No, this is coming out tomorrow. I'm not gonna edit. Here we go. Here's the first question. Flash Thompson says the famous cool like this character from Community. Flash Thompson, who's in this movie. There's also, we didn't even talk about that Flashpoint.
I'm so glad I'm texting you. I almost texted someone else.
Someone else. Well, we didn't even talk about the Flashpoint thing, but this is a good kind of moment for it. Danny, who listens to our pod, supports us from the Netherlands. He says, like, what's going on with all this DC stuff happening in Marvel? Because we got Flashpoint, we got that Superman and Eternals. Spoiler alert. Something's happening.
And Batman.
Yeah. I am not... I don't know. I won't say anything yet. But
I had made the joke that like Marvel's giving DC some love because Warner Brothers isn't. So
Yeah, and
that's probably why.
But then they also like make the Scooby-Doo thing, which is a Warner Brothers property, and I looked into it and
oh shit, I was about to say something from The Matrix. I was like, wait till you watch The Matrix.
Okay.
Like,
Well, I didn't know this, but apparently this is kind of nerdy. You both got it right. It's Abed from Community. This
Troy and Abed in the morning.
he says, cool. The writers of this are also from Community, Chris McKenna and Alex Summers,
Yeah.
and the Russo brothers. Is this just Community over there at
yeah, they
Marvel?
Feige just loves that show.
Yeah.
He's just like,
And I got to say, they did a great job. So whatever they learned from Community, they balanced everything in this movie. But this is kind of nerdy and behind the scenes and some old Hollywood stuff. Apparently, Warner Brothers and Disney negotiated a favorable deal where they will help each other with IP for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a Disney movie.
Right.
And Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse are in it. But then Warner Brothers asked Disney if they can have a Disney character be the referee of Space Jam with Michael Jordan, and Disney said, you know what, we don't want the agreement anymore. So basically they were like, we're cool with it for our movie, but we're against it with yours. And now there's like this giant fight between Warner Brothers hates Disney because they're like, oh man, we signed on to this thing and Disney didn't want to reciprocate the love. But this Scooby-Doo thing, I'm sure, is just another on a long list of like Disney trying to fuck with Warner Brothers. Okay, who is the only other live-action Spider-Man not featured in this film? So there were other live-action Spider-Man. There's only one more live-action Spider-Man in a feature film who is not in this movie.
in a feature film.
In a feature film. Isn't that
live-action
insane? A live-action
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I will be surprised if you guess this, but I will say this. He did have a role written in this movie, but it was cut.
In this movie?
In this movie. They wrote a role for this actor in this movie.
I don't know who it is, but I think it's like the 70s Spider-Man.
Yep,
dude?
1977, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, of
And they
course.
really wanted to get him in this movie, but they cut him out.
There was to be honest, there was a Japanese one, Spider-Man.
That's true. They
and
should
that
have put
was
him in
live
this
action
movie.
too.
I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to get him in because obviously
He's in Into the Spider-Verse.
well, this is like deep cut.
The second one?
If you got this in this deep cut,
People wouldn't really know. I think that the recognition.
to
would
be
be
honest,
kinda
that's
weird.
probably why they cut it.
To be
Yeah.
honest, and also these people, they only watch the MCU
Yeah,
movies.
I know. This is Nicholas Hammond. He played the Amazing Spider-Man in 1977. His cameo and an entire scene was written, but then it was cut. Sad. What was the last live-action film Toby Mcguire was in? So Toby Mcguire, who really is rich as hell just from the Raimi Spider-Man. After that movie, he was able to make. I think he got to request 8 figures for every movie after Spider-Man, including Seabiscuit. So every movie Tobey Maguire's in, he gets paid a lot of money. But
I don't know.
what was the last live action movie he was in?
I forgot what the name of that movie was. I'm thinking of another movie, but I don't know what the name, so I just
It was
put
very
this-
broad.
This is also really hard. I don't know why I wrote it in. I'm not going to say what you guessed, but you both got it wrong. It was 2014's Pawn Sacrifice.
Okay.
No, I thought it was that one where he was that abusive guy at home.
Brothers.
That
Brothers,
one.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what.
yeah.
That's the one I thought it was. So I
Yeah.
just texted Tropic Thunder
But
because I
those
couldn't
are
remember it.
he hasn't been in a movie in forever. He was a voice in Boss Baby, which is his highest grossing film outside of Spider-Man. But other than that, just gambling, I guess, right? What is that?
The gambling thing.
Which No Way Home actor was also featured in the live-action Daredevil film in 2003?
Oh, okay.
This
That one's
one
easy.
should be a little easy, but I don't know if you go back that far in Daredevil lore.
Yeah.
You both got it right. John Favreau plays
Foggy
Foggy
Nelson.
And him and Charlie Cox do have
We
a
didn't
little
even talk about
interaction
that.
here.
Daredevil was actually in this movie.
I think we
I-
did.
I said it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We've been talking for an hour, so.
Because
Okay.
I had said that Vincent D'Onofrio obviously came back as Kingpin also.
Okay, how many Oscar winners are in this film? And then I guess extra points if you could name them. I don't know. I'll give you a point per Oscar winner you can actually name. But how many Oscar winners are in this film? The Oscars. The Oscar.
Dun, 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 dun. Wait. Let me see.
I will say, going back to Tobey Maguire and the amount of money
Oh
he.
shit! I guess it could be actually. Oh
I mean,
damn!
I'm going to
forgot.
read all your texts and I'll give you a
Hold
point
on.
per. But
Hold
I
on.
forgot about the Spider-Man.
what?
The Spider-Man.
Oh.
But I guess
don't think any of them
Yeah,
won
you're
Oscar.
right.
John,
Yeah,
don't
okay,
help
good.
me.
No, he's right. I just thought about it. I was like, Toby would have been the closest one.
Shit.
And then Andrew Garfield's getting nominated this year probably for
And
Tick Tick
he's-
Boom.
Andrew Garfield was nominated also
This is the life of Bo, Bo,
for
Bo, Bo.
Hacksaw Ridge, a Mel
Hacksaw,
Gibson
yeah.
film. Andrew Garfield.
Mel Gibson joint.
It's crazy how little
Mel Gibson
Andrew
joint.
Garfield is actually one of only like 3 millennials who've been nominated for Oscars. Isn't that crazy? Everyone else has been like, I guess, old. Is it? I don't know.
I think I only got 4. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, here we go. Here is
I think it's 4 also.
so Andrew and John. You both guessed 4. You overshot.
Really?
Yeah, there's only 3.
So it's
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx, Alfred Molina?
No, Defoe
No?
and Tomei.
Yes.
Fuck.
So I'm not
I
gonna
thought
give,
Molina
I'm not
was.
give anyone any points. I guess. Yeah, it's fine. Who cares?
Molina deserves one.
Hayden
An
Church
honorary.
was nominated. Like
Yeah,
Hayden Church was nominated.
I do remember that.
So you were wrong. So Marissa Tomei,
Okay,
Jamie
damn.
Foxx, and J.K. Simmons are the
J.K.
3 winners.
Simmons!
Willem Dafoe has never won an Oscar.
right.
Alfred
Damn.
Molina has never won an Oscar. They've all
Holy
been
shit.
nominated.
They,
It's-
they deserve honorary.
yeah, it's an honor just
do.
to be
I
I
nominated.
forgot that J.K. Simmons is in this movie. I was
J.K.
just thinking
Simmons,
about it.
Whiplash.
Also true.
Whiplash. Jamie Foxx was
Yeah.
for the Ray Charles
yeah,
movie, right? Marissa Tomei was for The Wrestler.
No,
If
for
I'm
My
not
Cousin
mistaken.
Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny. Wow. Okay. Here
Joe
we go.
Pesci.
What vehicle brand sponsored this film?
Oof.
That's right. Each of these Marvel movies are sponsored by a vehicle brand. You can
about it then. Think
if
about
you
it.
think about the movie, you notice it pretty hardcore. But what vehicle brand sponsored this film? They actually feature multiple models from this one brand in No Way Home.
I can't think of. I mean,
and this is kind of a test on whether there was money well spent. If you can't remember,
well, it's also I can't see. I mean, there's ads for it like on YouTube and shit.
yeah, I
just
bet
skip
there's
it.
there's ads.
Just
Oh yeah,
like-
skip ads.
But I forgot. Like at
I
this
can
point.
remember.
I mean, I texted you an
You know what?
answer-
Audi.
an answer?
I remember Audi and Iron Man.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think Lexus is in Black Panther, or maybe it is Audi again. Black Panther has one too. But you watch these movies
I
and
don't
you're
know.
like,
I
it's
don't even
only
know if
this
that's
one
better, right?
brand. Okay, let's find out.
Nike.
Andrew guessed Mercedes. John guessed Lexus. The correct answer is Hyundai.
Hyundai.
Do you remember the
What
lady
a
from
very Spider-Man car.
the lady from Admissions? She's
Yeah,
in like
I
a
knew.
Honda Santa
That's
Fe
the
or
one
something.
I was trying to
Yeah.
think of. I was like, what car is this?
My first car was a Hyundai. Awesome.
Hey, that scene is an homage to the Amazing Spider-Man. It's the
good.
first one.
Which actor turned down a cameo in a flashback sequence due to his commitments to a TV show? There's actually an actor who is in one of the prior MCU movies, or sorry, Spider-Man movies, or turned down a cameo. Is it best if I give you a clue of
Wait.
which Spider-Man
In the
this
MCU
is?
one or in the
No,
regular Spider-Man
in one of the
movies?
Spider-Man films outside the MCU, there's an actor who turned down a cameo in this film because of commitments to a TV show.
To a TV show. Hold on.
Would you like for me to give you which Spider-Man
think
movies this come from, or no?
Yeah, just which
Oh,
which
fuck, I
era?
already answered.
It's from Andrew Garfield's
Yeah, I
movies.
answered. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
okay.
This is the life.
Bo.
No, I don't know.
Okay, Andrew, you get the point. It's Dennis Leary.
Boom!
He was supposed to be featured in
From
a
fucking Ice Age.
And I would
Rescue
say
Me.
though, like if we're talking about
Isn't
like
he already fucking dead? They're just gonna
John,
flash back to him
John,
again.
Aren't all these villains?
that's what I'm saying. Like if we're talking about
has
Andrew
to be right.
Garfield getting like that whatever moment he needs to see, can you imagine him seeing like Captain Stacy alive again? That would just damn, like that would be he'd be fucked up.
But also, he knew who Spider-Man was. That's why.
Yeah. The whole time, right? He said, "Stay
Yeah.
away from my daughter."
You see him just show up with a shotgun, and he's the sixth one.
Yeah.
He's a villain.
In what other MCU entity does Spider-Man wear Doctor Strange's cape? So this is not the first time in the MCU that Spider-Man wears Doctor Strange's cape. If you can be as specific as you want, I guess. But when else does he wear it? What other
Oh shit!
thing does he wear it?
I just put the show.
I mean, you don't have to be too specific, I guess. You both guessed it right. It's What If. Do you remember the episode?
Yeah,
It's,
Marvel Zombies.
Zombies,
Zombie Hunter Spidey.
which apparently is in Multiverse of Madness. What? Sorry.
The zombie thing?
Yeah, that'd be fucking awesome.
All right, I'll give you a point per the one you get right.
I
There
would throw
are
up.
3 MCU films longer than this one. So text me whichever ones you think are longer than this one. There are 3 MCU films longer than this one. I mean, I feel like some of these are pretty obvious because they're big movies. I'll stop talking. Shut the fuck up.
Stop giving me hints.
You all gets it right. It is Endgame at number 1. Eternals is the second longest. Infinity War, and then it's this movie.
God damn Eternals! Why are you so long?
I love Eternals, baby.
long.
That movie was eternal.
No, I like the.
There are two more questions. Andrew is leading by one. Before the new Sony deal in 2019, this was supposed to be before the Sony deal in 2019, which I guess was just like 2 years. That's like recent.
That's pretty recent. Yeah.
This was supposed to be the final Tom Holland film and was supposed to set up which already announced MCU property.
What the fuck was the question? Read it again.
Before the Sony deal in 2019, this final Tom Holland film was supposed to set up which announced MCU property? I would say film or streaming series. This was supposed to set up one of those. What was it supposed to set up?
I texted you.
This is the this was supposed to set up.
This was supposed to set up Tick Tick Boom.
So am I supposed to say the movie that?
I would say like what
You're confused on how to answer.
Yeah, because I was like, am I saying the movie that was going to be his last appearance that leads into the series? So
No. So this was supposed to set up a movie or a streaming show that's already been announced, but after they redid the deal, they said, okay, we'll do something else. But this was supposed to set up this other thing.
I think I may have guessed wrong now because you over-explained it.
I think this will make sense when I say it because of... Well,
I don't know what the fuck this is.
You're not going to guess, Andrew?
I already guessed, bitch.
Andrew, you get the point because this was supposed to set up Secret Invasion.
It's because Fury was
Shit.
off-world and
after watching Far From... So much scroll stuff going on.
And then that's part of what like...
I thought it was Kraven the Hunter.
That's part of what.
Yeah, that's what you get.
That's part of what like kind of goes against Peter Parker in his case, where they're like, "Hey, ask Nick Fury everything," and they're like, "Damn, he's been gone for like a year,"
Yeah.
and he's like, "What the fuck?"
Also, we didn't talk about this. He's in Succession, the actor who plays the Department of... What is it? Damage?
Oh, Damage
Yeah.
Control. You're
Yeah.
right. It is him. Fuck. He's
But
Stewie.
another agency in the MCU? God, damn. Too much government is what I say. Like, how many are there now?
The Sokovia Accords,
There's
baby.
too many, damn. Final question, although, John, I think you're eliminated because Andrew was already won. This is the only MCU trilogy completed by one single director, so kudos to you, Watts. Which other heroes had at least the same director for two films?
Which
There's
other
three
heroes
of them.
had...
Yeah,
Wait, in the MCU?
in the MCU. There's three of them. I guess you could win if you guess all three. And
What the fuck?
Andrew gets one. So, yeah. So one director directed all of these Spider-Man films. There are three other, I guess, entities or superheroes that had one director do at least two of them.
That's it. There's more than that.
There's only three.
Well, there will be 4 if you think about it.
I am trying.
But I'm just putting the
Oh,
3 in
you're
right
right.
now.
Yeah, I guess because there's future stuff. I was like, what are you talking about? But I see. There's like 20,000 movies announced, so yeah.
Oh, shit. In that case... Oh,
I don't count those. I don't
You're not
count
counting
those.
the future one?
I'm not
Hold on.
counting
Oh, fucked
future.
it up.
No,
Hold
no,
on. Let me
I think I got it.
add one more answer. Well, I guess never mind. Fuck it.
You both get 2 because Iron Man and Captain America are there. So, but Andrew, you've won. The one that I have here, I should have been more clear, is Avengers. Joss
Avengers,
Whedon.
Yeah.
Joss Whedon.
Wasn't Ant-Man Peyton Reed?
Also, Avengers would have still made
Ant-Man
it.
1 and 2.
You're
with
right.
Peyton Reed.
Yeah.
So I get 3.
All right, Andrew, you won by more.
But also Thor Ragnarok and Thor...
Yeah,
The next thing,
Thunder.
Love and Thunder.
And Avengers counts as twice because it's 2 by Whedon, 2 by the Russos.
2 by Whedon, 2 by Russo's. But
Yeah.
honestly, the last one, like part one. But kudos to John Watts.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy to
Yeah,
think
that's
that
pretty
you're.
cool. He finished his
Goes to
trilogy.
Peyton Reed. Peyton Reed's about to do a trilogy too.
That's true. He's about to finish his trill.
And it's because he's doing Mando shit
Yeah.
now, and
And he gets to do or I don't know what he gets to do.
he's
But
a Disney.
love to see what he gets to do.
Yeah,
But yeah, so we've come to the end of the game.
and I won.
Well, let's talk about the movie a little bit more
Put some
before
dirt in your eye.
we shut this down.
Shut this shit down. We haven't even talked about Wong being the Sorcerer Supreme. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
That's cool. Well, let's talk about the Doctor Strange stuff. I think it's really cool to have him there. It seems like he's kind of given up in an interesting way, but he's not the Sorcerer Supreme.
It looks like he's just chilling out.
He's the most talented, but he maybe doesn't know everything.
That's the weird part about this movie is the fact that like Strange seemed to have learned. He seemed to have been like a head honcho, like as in a wise person when it came to Infinity War. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
he wasn't,
yeah.
He wasn't his reckless self who he was in the first Doctor Strange movie. And so to have him kind of like a dude who, you know, gave out, you know, exposition and said like, you know, this is going to be bad if we do it this way.
Yeah.
It was kind of a weird walk back of the character in this one.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of like a little bit, not reckless. I mean, Peter Parker's the thing that makes the spell go wrong and
Yeah.
everything, but
I have a
Still.
feeling that we're going to get a little more context in, of course, his movie, the Multiverse of Madness, to where he is. Because we also got to see, like, what? Like a kind of an evil version of him in
We've
the
already
trailer?
seen it.
That's
In
true.
What
If? What if? Which
Strange Supreme.
But but yeah, you're right. Like, it is kind of interesting to have him there at all, really.
Yeah. But
it
wouldn't that be like a shut that shit down type of thing?
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not doing this.
And what do
Like,
you think Wong's doing? Because he does this in Shang-Chi too. Like he's portaling in and out of stuff, right?
He's hustling.
Hey,
He's
if
throwing
he's
fights
Sorcerer
and
Supreme and he's throwing fights, then that's some sort of fucked up shit.
What's
That's
going- yeah,
worse
what
than
is
the
going-
that's
he's
worse
got-
than the ancient one fucking bringing
He's got Abomination and
negative
like a,
dimension fucking energy back in.
We also get, I'm sure everyone else did this too, but I wanted to see where Wong was going. I was like, what's in that portal back
It
there?
looked like Carmitage when he was going to.
Hey, remember that party that they had at Camertage?
No.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. What happened? Weird stuff? Sex stuff.
Yeah, probably all those tentacles came out of Doctor Strange and hentai started ensuing this shit.
What did y'all think about? I mean, we talked about how this is, since we're talking about MCU stuff, it's not super overly reliant on Stark, but he's still pretty important because he has the Fabricator and
there's the
Hogan
fucking
stole it. He's
nanotech on Doc Ock's arms and the fucking arc reactor.
And it's kind of
yeah.
interesting because
there's
everyone
that fat ass Captain America shield on the Statue of Liberty.
Then that the Rogers musical is around. But there's also like that big, the nanotech stuff is kind of wild because that almost made Spider-Man invincible. Almost
yeah,
in a way.
in
It's
a
gone
way.
now, right? Like we don't know.
I
where
think
it
they
is.
even find a way to get Venom to mention Iron Man.
You're right.
And you're like,
Hogan.
damn. They're like, hey, can we get Tom Hardy to say Iron can mention to kind of talk about Iron Man?
Yes.
And yeah, exactly.
He'll do whatever.
It's still there. It's just not as giant or like a giant presence in the last movie. I think the Strange Thing. I don't know why, because I think the Strange Thing kind of just takes the place of an Iron Man
Yeah.
or a Fury.
They were all three together on their way to Titan.
We talked about the fight earlier, but I mean, anytime you
yeah.
get two Avengers together in a movie,
You gotta have them hash it out.
Ant-Man versus Falcon.
Well, it just seemed
they're
like it
gonna
was
fight.
watching an episode of or reading a comic or an episode of a Spider-Man cartoon where he
Yeah.
meets Doctor Strange, and that's just like
it's
really cool.
another thing that adds to this movie because a lot of the things that everyone loved from the first Doctor Strange was Scott Derrickson's direction to have like kind of this really out there visual
The visual language of the mirror dimension.
and that's in this Spider-Man
Yeah.
movie, and you get it a lot, and so that's kind of fun. But yeah, pretty cool. Well, let's talk about some of the, I guess, the stuff that makes the Spider-Man. I guess we already talked about what does Osborn say? I dabble in, what does he say? I do science. He didn't say that. He's something of a scientist himself. Was there any other things that kind of stood out to you and you were like, man, that's fun?
There was there's little moments of that kind of hint the previous thing. I
Yeah.
think there's like at one point Mcguire says my back, kind of because he
back.
hurts his back in
Hitting
Spider-Man
that thing.
2.
Yeah.
We do get a musical cue that's
Oh, there's a ton of musical cues.
well
in this,
the
yeah.
musical cue that's very much I mean once you get the other Spider-Man when they start fighting at the very end you get a lot of the
Each of theirs, Doc Ock has his theme back.
of his theme.
Everyone gets
Goblin
their theme.
gets his theme.
Yeah.
I think
I think Darth Vader is in this. I'm kidding.
What the crazy thing to me is like
Palpatine.
there was a 2
2
second.
I wrote that down.
There was a 2 second musical callback to Electro's like dubstep theme
Oh yeah.
that came out when he first kind of came out, and I was kind of excited because I do like that music from that.
It's good.
From that movie.
Itsy bitsy spider
literally what that-
went
yeah.
up the water spout. And then down came the goblin.
and
wash
wash
the
the spider
spider
out.
So that was pretty cool. There's like little callbacks like that. I think
I wanted the Sandman theme and they didn't give it to me, so
Well,
I was a little bit fucking pissed.
That was
'cause
what I was
the
thinking
best
of.
part
I
of
was like, what was Sandman's theme?
that was
even?
the best. That was one of the best parts of Spider-Man 3.
You know, it'd be funny if they did the Dune theme when Sandman came out. And he's like, what?
he had a worm inside.
Zendaya again.
He just had
Damn.
ringworm.
Giant worm. I want to see Spider-Man fight Worm from Dune.
Just the Alaskan bullworm.
Or
from
spoiler
SpongeBob.
alert, ride Worm.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot
Sexually,
about that.
no, but yeah, those were really cool. Because I mean, obviously, like
J.K. Simmons as Jonah Jameson is probably the.
It has one of my favorite
That's
shots.
probably
in the
biggest
movie.
callback.
Alex Jones, yeah.
One of my favorite shots in the movie when Aunt May has just died and he's in the rain and he's watching the video
Yeah,
screen.
yeah.
I was like, man, it's so Spider-Man like, where
Super
he's
cinematic,
watching
right?
It's the world versus Spider-Man because
Yeah.
J. Jonah Jameson kind of puts it against it, but
I like how he starts off
awesome.
in his living room too, and then like evolves
Gets
into
money.
just like Infowars. Sorry, people, it's real.
Yeah.
Look it up. Don't look it up. I guess don't watch it.
Yeah, stop getting misinformation.
Yeah. But yeah, that was really cool, and I like that. It doesn't even seem like that is over. I feel like he's around still.
And
Yeah,
you can have
still hates Spider-Man.
You can have an interesting dynamic with him in the next one because Scorpion is in here
Yeah.
and he wants to go after J. Jonah Jameson or whatever. Yeah.
Aren't they like shooting? Isn't J. Jonah Jameson like cameoing in Morbius too?
Well,
or
that's
something like
what's.
that?
Well, let's talk
He's
about.
also Commissioner Gordon with Michael Keaton in Batgirl.
Let's talk about that crack. The cracks in the reality when we got to see the hints
Oh,
of
okay, yeah.
Scorpion
and Rhino and
Cosmic
Kraven the
ass crack,
Hunter.
basically.
cosmic crack.
Yeah, cosmic ass crack.
I mean, that seems like a pretty big Sony thing, right? Like hey, look at the
Look at all the
universe.
villain- yeah, of, like,
villains.
Morbius is there, Jared Leto shirtless.
Yeah, as his character from House of Gucci.
Yeah, that's just a different version of Morbius.
Yeah, variant.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it. It reminds you, and I think maybe even Doctor Strange highlights this, saying it's an infinite amount of people that know Peter Parker
In all of the
that's
multiverse,
all
yeah.
coming through.
You see Craven. You see like some
Yeah.
cool cameos of
That's
the
so
villains over here.
Kraven.
Like you see Craven the Hunter. You see Scorpion in the background. I think
And so you see Rhino with a horn,
Rhino, like a rhino
Like
man.
like an actual
Yeah.
Rhino person.
Not the I crush, I kill you.
Yeah,
Not that one.
Paul Giamatti.
Sorry, Paul.
He would have been the 4th Oscar winner if he was in this. Wait,
Yeah.
has he won an Oscar?
I think it might be Oscar nominated again.
Lady in the Water?
Big Fat Lie.
Him and weren't they Thomas Hayden Church? Like both of them were in the same movie. Wasn't it Sideways?
The Birdcage.
Yeah, they were both in Spider-Man. I'm kidding. But yeah, I think that this is kind of, and I guess we're talking about the future of this right now, but it feels like, especially with that Tom Hardy, the after credits,
Fuck, that shit ruined it for me.
he left some symbiote behind. He
I
left
know,
a
that's
little
the-
behind.
that's the only saving grace.
That's gonna get a little bit confusing. Let's talk about that scene. So this Venom comes out in this movie, like Tom Hardy and Venom. Venom, like the voice.
He doesn't
you
even
hear
know
him.
who Peter Parker is. I don't know how he got back.
So this is gonna get confusing for like Sony movies going forward because I think Sony is still treating Morbius like it's in the MCU, right? Like, it's
Maybe
like we
the
might
poster
see like
the poster of
Yeah,
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
is
stuff.
confusing. You know why? Because it's
It's
from
a-
the video game, but the video game is using Toby Mcguire's skin, and, so you're
and-
like, what fucking universe?
and Vulture is there, and I don't
Vulture
think
is there.
I don't think they've committed, even though that's confusing because Vulture's there.
Vulture got to jump into another universe instead of just
Well-
bringing people. He's like, I got to jump to
They haven't committed to Tom Holland's Spider-Man being the one there, so
Yeah.
you could technically throw in
Variant.
Garfield, throw in whoever
Fucking
the
variants.
hell. Yeah,
But,
like
like-
this guy who was in the 70s.
Vulture is in prison, like with.
Yes, but that's the Vulture of the Tom
And
Holland
then he
thing.
knows about Venom, and then like
Yeah.
I'm sure J. Jonah Jameson's gonna be in there, probably in the same
Yeah.
capacity that he was in. And
And I think
fuck,
part-
that's gonna be confusing.
And I think part of this too, and this kind of leads to the future of Tom Holland Spider-Man, is Amy Pascal has said that he controls his own destiny when it comes to Spider-Man and his Peter Parker. That if he wants to do a movie, he can do it. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't have to. Kind of like the Daniel Craig deal, where he's now, or he was up until the last one, the producer of the 007 movies. So he literally had a hand in all aspects of 007. I think it's the same with Tom Holland. So if he doesn't want to be in Venom, I don't think he has to.
yeah.
But it is kind of interesting because this movie made me want more of the Tom Holland Spider-Man
Yeah.
more than it did
Any of the other stuff.
any of the
Yeah,
other
like-
stuff. But I mean,
I mean, we haven't seen Venom. Let there be carnage. So I mean,
and it's possible because he left the symbiote that they can just get a different
Venom for that universe. Yeah.
because that symbiote can get into the guy from Ted Lasso, who's the bartender, football is life guy. I feel like there's also kind of I've seen petitions of people wanting Andrew Garfield in the darker
the
world of-
Sony verse, right?
yeah
I
the
don't
Morbius
mind-
world of
I guess
whatever.
that might be a little too. You might be oversaturating the thing if you bring. If you have.
You're kind of exploiting the thing that everyone loved in this movie and being like, okay, let's.
Yeah, exactly. I
Let's
mean,
do
because
it.
we're already getting another Spider-Verse movie, the Across the Spider-Verse, which is like That should kind of scratch your multiversal itch when it comes to different Spider-Man.
Yeah, coming out next year, less than 365 days from now,
Yeah.
you get another Spider-Verse.
And then you get another one after
yeah,
that,
exactly,
too.
because there's another
This
one.
is a part 2.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, this is, and you're getting 3 more Tom Holland. So
Yeah, eventually. And then, you're going to have Tom Holland pop up in another MCU movie, too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, it's just... It's one of those things where, like, you get scared, though, because of you think Sony's going to get, like, greedy. And they usually end up doing that,
Yeah.
but... And hopefully... I mean, this is what caused it all to kind of fall apart in 2019. So, I mean, I'm hoping this movie... If anything, this movie is kind of like... You cap it off pretty well if you did want to end it here for some reason. Or if you just wanted to shelve it until, Holland's contract... because I think he's contracted for one more MCU movie. Like, that's the only thing that he's... And then after that, he has to renegotiate. But... I mean, you can just shelve it until...
it's kind of a hopeful ending. It's bittersweet.
We know
but it's
Spider-Man's
not
out
bad.
there, and he'll be out there in the MCU.
I will say though, with the things that MCU have announced already, and we've talked about this before, it's just going to be hard to do things in New York because
Sooner or later, everyone's going to be in New York.
it's just going to be wild.
Daredevil's going to be there and shit.
I mean, I can't even imagine what's going to happen in New York because
it's going to be the safest city on earth.
Safest, or just like have the most crime. Like I don't, because that's kind of the thing with that city in general is when they're not all canonized in the same story. It's fine. You can have all kinds of shit happening because they're not going to cross paths. But it's going to be hard for them not to if this is all part of that universe or whatever. But I mean, I think the Tom Holland has a super bright future. I believe he is now the highest grossing Spider-Man actor of all time. He's well beloved by everyone. He's obviously got the weight of the MCU behind him, and the fact that he's fought Thanos and just stuff that none of the other Spider-Man actors have done. I'm kind of...
I mean, he met the other Spider-Man in his movie.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing is I feel like if Sony is just wanting to do more of what works, I honestly don't even think we've seen the last of Toby Mcguire or Andrew Garfield. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I like the way this ended, but I totally feel like they are at least having those conversations because they're like, oh, this worked, so let's keep doing it. It's kind of crazy because we went from Sony having to make Spider-Verse because they were going to lose the rights because they have to make a movie every 2 years to them being like, well, let's make 6. So kind of an about face for them almost losing the rights to like going hardcore into Spider-Man.
The only thing that was missing from this movie is I know he passed away a couple of years ago, but Stan Lee, because Stan Lee kind of really liked being
a cameo
in these
favorite thing he made, right?
Spider-Man. Yeah,
I will say I did notice a lot of Ditko graffiti everywhere on the roof of the school, everywhere. So they at least tried to honor him.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Kind of interesting. Well, let's. Is it worth talking about the last after credit scene because it's a trailer?
That's a trailer for another movie that I'm sure we'll get to. That trailer.
We'll have a whole nother podcast on just the trailer.
I think that's the. Isn't that the next MCU movie? I think now we're taking a break because we've got MCU at least once a month.
Hey, Star Wars is taking the wheel next week with the Book of Fett.
We've gotten an MCU thing every month this past year, and so I think we're taking a break, and then it's back to Multiverse of Madness.
I think it's only like 2-3 month wait for the next Marvel thing. It's usually like
it's in May, I think.
The next movie is
what?
Okay.
Yeah, Doctor Strange.
Okay.
When is that?
May 6th, and then after that will be Thor: Love and Thunder.
So what about the Disney Plus series?
That's it. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything.
No, Miss Marvel.
So we've
or
got
She-Hulk?
1, 2, 3,
Marvel's
4.
later.
There are 5 Disney Plus shows coming out next year, which would mean I think that something's coming out in January, February, because.
But that's what I'm saying. So
how
what's
you gonna
next?
release 5?
So what's next?
So
Miss Marvel's
they
not
haven't
next,
released
though.
the order yet. But it is Moon Knight, She-Hulk, What
yeah,
If
I
Season
forgot
2, Secret
To be honest,
Invasion.
all these have, I think, wrapped filming probably.
Moon Knight.
Yeah,
I
and
think.
Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. All of those are coming out
That one's
next
not
year. So is Miss Marvel. So we'll have to see. They haven't released the order, but yeah, Miss Marvel,
It's
Moon
gonna
Knight,
be Moon
She-Hulk.
Knight or Miss Marvel.
What She-Hulk is filmed too, I
She-Hulk,
believe.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Miss
exactly.
Mar-
One of those 3.
Moon Knight and
Yeah.
She-Hulk, I think.
Secret Invasion, I think, just finished filming. So it's kind of crazy that we're talking about this while there's like a million things already
Already been filmed.
done in the bank.
Yeah, what movies
The
are
Big
filming though?
Bang.
Right? I think Doctor Strange and then Black Panther, right?
Well, yeah. The Black Panther comes out in November of next year.
Okay.
They're having a hard
Thankfully.
time. They're having a hard time finishing that one. But Multiverse is done, and Love and Thunder is done as well.
And then there's no other movies though, right? Like Marvel movies next year?
no,
Isn't it
not
just-
next year.
that's
There's only
just them
3
two?
movies, which is kind of crazy. Because this year, you're right, we had 4 movies this year. Weird to
Yeah.
think about.
I think it was everything was just being pushed back because of
Yeah.
COVID last year.
Black
so
Widow, especially. I think we felt that the most with Black Widow.
Yeah, you can tell that was supposed to be released last year.
Yeah.
Same thing goes for Eternals, I think, too. I think at one point.
Yeah. Well, let's go around the horn and give our final thoughts on No Way Home. And yeah, Andrew, what are your final thoughts on No Way Home?
I think that it's probably one of the must-see movies of the year.
Wow.
While I don't think it's in my top 3 best, I think it's probably in my top 3 favorites.
Yeah.
Which are different movies, but
Funny how that works.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and I can acknowledge it's a Star Wars thing where my favorite's Return of the Jedi. Your favorite could be Episode 2. I don't give a shit, but the best one is Empire, and you should be able to acknowledge it. But yeah, so it's the same thing here, where I had a lot of fun with this movie.
I like
think.
Star Trek. No, I'm just saying.
Go ahead, Jen. Now you go. I was kidding. Yeah, no, it was. It's really really fun, and I think people are gonna like it for a long time. I think it's gonna be one of those things that it's gonna become a instant classic, and it looks like it's gonna. And I went to go watch The Matrix in IMAX, and there were only 2 showings. There was one at the very beginning of the day, and there's one at the very end because everything in between is still taken up by Spider-Man.
Hey, but there's open seats at your house with HBO Max always.
It's true.
I'm just kidding.
And
I'm not kidding. It's actually.
But and I can see that even Kingsman not getting the same type of pop, and
Oh, I should have forgot about
the
that.
Kingsman. I think Spider-Man's going to take the box office even this second week, which is crazy to have the Matrix and the Kingsman taking away from that box office.
Speaking of like old franchises coming back, that's also like a 20-year.
The Matrix opened at number 3. I think Sing 2 is taking the number 2 spot.
Oh, Sing 2.
Yeah.
The Singiverse.
And
yeah.
it's crazy because Sing 2's a kids movie,
Yeah.
and Spider-Man still beat that. So it's it's a really
but
really awesome.
you haven't seen Sing 2. You don't know about Toby Mcguire and
You know
Andrew
about
Garfield
yeah.
being in Sing 2.
Yeah. Open a portal.
This is the life, and then it's
Oh my God, they're singing Tick Tick Boom in Sing 2.
Yeah, I
oh
know.
boy.
Yeah, really, really awesome movie. I think we said a lot, and I kind of gushed over my favorite moments already. But I think I know it feels daunting if you haven't seen a superhero movie since Toby Maguire's or since Andrew Garfield's, but I think this type of movie is what makes that process so worth it.
Yeah.
For sure. And also, if you're one of these people who only watch the Tom Holland or all the MCU movies, I think it's also worth you going back and checking out these other movies because it's just really cool to kind of see on how they paved the way for the character, and without them, this stuff wouldn't be possible. I'm glad that all these, Toby and Andrew are getting the spotlight that they deserved at the time, and now since we're on this superhero culture with steroids that they helped start, they're getting the praise that they. Because you're talking about those movies should have been billion-dollar movies, and should they? Are they? No, and exactly.
Tom Holland's the only one that.
And you're like, damn, that's crazy because if those movies had been released today, they would have been obviously billion-dollar movies. But yeah, it's really really cool, and the fact that it's so respectful of Spider-Man as a character, and he's finally come onto his own is really exciting, and I can't wait to see what else they do with the character. Fingers crossed that it doesn't revert back to Sony and they just kind of butcher it from here. But
Yeah.
it seems like it could go that way because of the after credit scene.
No, please. John, what do you think? What are your final thoughts on No Way Home? How many Spider-Man would you rate this movie? I'm just
3.
kidding.
No, I'm just playing. Out of 4.
Oh,
Out
of
of
course.
that 70s
that
one,
guy,
yeah,
sorry.
exactly, yeah.
I forgot his name. I apologize.
Damn, so did Marvel apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They probably just cut it because they're like, what?
Like Tom Holland's brothers in this scene. Take the shit.
They cut that scene out too.
Yeah, they did.
it's a great flick. I think it's one of the more enjoyable superhero movies of the last 5 years. I think in this case, they're all enjoyable when it comes to Marvel, but I think this one is like one of the ones where it's like a once in a lifetime type of event where
Yeah.
you're just like, I can't believe I just watched this. It's the same thing when it came to the first Spider-Man movie, back to the first X-Men movie, the Dark Knight. I think this movie hits that event status of movie where like you had to be there type of thing.
It hit it right.
Yeah, it hit it hit the spot basically right the right way, and so it's just it's a joy to like talk about and to watch again. I just like even just watching it or talking about it now with you guys, it just makes me want to watch it again because I'm just like I'm obviously probably only half explaining what the hell happened in a scene or something, and you just kind of have to watch it to get the full effect of it. Awesome flick. I think it skyrockets to the top of maybe the second most enjoyable Spider-Man movie for me, I think, in this case. So like it is it's awesome. I think I think if they wanted, like I said before, if they wanted to kind of cap it off for a bit, this is the perfect ending for it. It is super respectful of what came before it. You know, I don't think it kind of I don't know if it's as inviting for people who haven't really seen the old ones. It kind of is, and they kind of like, you know, hold your hand through it, but it's not like I don't see like a kid wanting to watch the Raimi movies, I guess, after watching this. But like, you know, but it does, you know, it gives the characters that were in that movie justice. And the same thing goes for the Garfield ones. It kind of redeems, I do agree that it kind of redeems Garfield from his like, you know, last movie. Not that he was the bad thing about it, but he was just, it's just like, you know, I think it's good to give him a you know, a very memorable send off if this is his like last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome flick. I urge everyone who hasn't seen it, you know, and for some reason sitting through this podcast, but everyone should go watch it and then and then just listen to us gush about it.
Yeah, I feel like it's an incredibly effective movie. I think that the writers of the film honestly understood the assignment, quote unquote. Am I young now? But you know, I think that they got kind of the top line goal of, hey, we need to introduce all of this stuff from these other Spider-Man movies, and instead of making it gratuitous, they absolutely imbued a lot of purpose and context to, I mean, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and obviously the new Spider-Man films. And I think it adds a lot to just the Spider-Man in live action cinema, whatever history that means, whether it's pop culture or whatever. I mean, I think on Peacock now all of Raimi Spider-Man is now the #1 streamed things right now. Mm-hmm. In whatever service the Amazing Spider-Man is, it's #1. Like people are watching the old movies again and probably finding some purpose in it, which I think is fantastic, and it's rare. Like
I was wrong then. I was like, I don't see this like kind of
well,
like making them watch it.
And the only downside, you have to get Peacock. But I feel like I think that this is so rare, and maybe this is going to happen more often. We just talked about like all this other IP happening all over again, but it's so rare to kind of reflect back on something that has such a long storied cinematic history,
right?
And for it to happen in a way that's you know, really effective and honestly really, really emotional, and still centered around one main character like Tom Holland's Peter Parker. I think it's super rare, and I think it really works. And it's an entertaining movie. I think that's why it's making so much money and why so many people are going and watching it, because they want to share in the experience and they want to see it and they want to feel that. And you know, apart from the nostalgia, it's just a really good movie. It's light on its feet. Yeah. It's really cinematic. There's visual stuff in this that I think is fantastic. There's wonders. We didn't even talk about the spider sense stuff. Like, there's a lot of really great choices in this movie that make it just a good experience cinematically. And I think, I think you'll really like it. I mean, you obviously watched it already at this point, but
watch it again.
Really good. I don't know where it is on the ranking for me, but yeah, it's definitely up there. It's a really enjoyable watch. I think even just in terms of MCU, it's
Yes, exactly.
pretty high up there. It's pretty good. All right, well, we've come to the end of this pod. It's time for plugs. You're listening to this on New Year's Eve. It is Friday.
Oh, shit.
Ho, ho, ho.
Wait.
Yeah, it's coming out New Year's Eve.
But why is it ho, ho, ho?
Because there's a bunch of... Never mind.
Because Santa is on his way. In my house, Santa's on the roof just waiting for that midnight. Then he comes sliding out that chimney. We hear him land. He's up there for 2 hours. He comes at 10.
And sits down and watches Dick Clark.
He finishes at 12:01 a.m.
What does he do? He's watching like New Year's Rockin' Eve?
Yeah, he's watching he's watching an early... He's watching...
He'll be coming down yo chimney tonight.
He's watching last year's New Year's Eve coverage on Christmas Eve. God, your dates are messed up,
You
John.
said December 31st.
Oh, did I?
Yes, that's why I was confused.
Yeah, it's late. He's
Santa,
late.
yeah.
Santa's late.
Right.
But Andrew, what do you have to plug?
Not much. Check out Director Showdown with Brett and Adam. Check out the Dirt Sheet Radio if you love the pro wrestling world with Jonas Cordero, Juicy John.
Hey, no Bonesaw on this, right?
Yeah, I know.
messed up.
Macho Man Randy Savage passed away. Damn, why you gotta use like that?
Well, like a Bonesaw type.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
should've been the
you
other
should have got
villain.
Brock Lesnar. Or, I
Yeah,
don't know.
who's cool? I don't even know who's cool now.
Chris Jericho.
Who's hot now? I don't know.
Check them out for sure. And then we're about to jump on the Star Wars bandwagon again, baby, with the Book of Boba Fett. And we've been having a.
Why is it called? Why is it called the Book of Boba Fett? There's a book.
It's like you're on his shit list. You're like, hey, you're in
Well,
my.
that's what I don't get. Like,
and in my book, that's no good.
they'll explain it, I'm sure, but I don't know.
They're gonna open
And
a
the-
book.
What if at the end of the series you just see him like closing the book and he's like,
And it was a
and that's-
story.
Yeah, exactly.
He's telling it to Baby Yoda.
He's telling it to another clone of himself.
Oh my
He's
God.
Like, yeah,
Send it to Omega.
Django the Second.
People are like at Barnes and
like-
Nobles, like, I'm looking for Book of Boba Fett, and they're like, it's a TV show, and they're like, oh,
Shit.
They
shouldn't
walk
it be
out.
called the TV show of Boba Fett?
The countdown strikes back. We're gonna start to kick things back up into gear. We even have a bunch of Patreon stuff for the High Republic.
Hey,
to get ready for
First
Eclipse. and
syllable of Patreon
Acolyte.
is pay. So
Patreon.
not
Patreon.
pay.
and then get vaxxed and boosted.
Yes, vaxxed and boosted. John, what do you have to plug?
Oh shit! Excuse me. Sorry. I just yawned on
The holidays, am I right?
recording.
My plugs are boring. What can I say?
Go and get boosted and get vaxxed. I think it makes the comfort of watching this movie a little bit better,
Yeah.
so you know that you're not going to get like super duper sick or something. Obviously watch the movie if you want to be serious, and watch the movie at your own risk. Please be safe. Listen to Revenge of the Sequel. I think our season for the year is actually finishing.
You can listen to
Finishing up.
you can listen to Die Hard with Vengeance right now because that's our holiday
pretty much it.
episode.
Yeah, and then I think we have a final episode before we take a brief hiatus.
I'm gonna take that pill.
Yeah, we're gonna be reviewing the Matrix Resurrections.
Oh,
which
I
is
thought we were
pretty-
doing Limitless.
Oh,
Taking
yeah.
that pill.
Well, that's next season.
know.
Limitless,
I thought we were trying to get high tea.
We need it. We need tea.
Listen to that, and then I think our next season will be an event season, which we cover all 25
James Bond.
Bond movies. We're still floating around with the
Indy.
title. That's what he says.
No ticket.
Yeah, that's
I
gonna be
watched
exciting.
Indiana Jones instead. Oh boy.
Yeah, this is those are the plugs.
You
Okay.
just watch The Rock.
I watch.
If
that-
you
I
smell-
watched that one interview. Bye.